Hello, everyone out there. My name is Lauren, and I work for In 7 Words over in the Newmarket area. And I'm here with not only an amazing person, but our curator of the space, Michele Varian, and she's going to kind of dive into what In 7 Words is, the whole concept, and why you guys need to know about us. So, Michele.
So for those of you who don't know what In 7 Words is, it's a retail store, and the concept is bringing Soho to DC, emerging brands and their stories. And the idea behind In 7 Words is really to figure out how to make sure that every kind of brand and small business has access to brick and mortar retail. And we use a platform in order to do that, and this is also a moment where we're doing our open call to invite local DC designers to submit their work to see if it's a good fit for them to be in 7 Words, because we want to make sure that not only are we bringing Soho to DC, but that DC is represented here too.
Exactly, because I think the one thing that the DMV is missing is a whole collection of what smaller brands, what retail can really bring to like a city. Like I think sometimes DC or some areas get chosen as not being fashionable, but I think that problem is because there isn't those markets or that opportunity for you to be fashionable or see different people out there. And I think with small businesses, you don't get that opportunity to be seen by more than just where you make your goods. And I think this store In 7 Words gives these brands these opportunities and gives them a voice where they can really grow a platform. And I think that's exciting. I mean, that's why I kind of joined the team. Hence, I do not make anything, but I am a huge supporter of smaller brands. I'm a huge supporter of people that craft and build and make something themselves. So this is that platform.
Well, and I think what you and I have in common, and you know, many of the people in the Union Market District, et cetera, is that, you know, we don't want to live in a boring world. You know, you come in every day, you got, you know, your makeup is different, you've got a different look going on, and that's exciting and fun. You know, there are those of us who don't want, you know, a Warby Parker and a Bonobos on every corner. You know, it's like, okay, great. Those are commodities, you know, like you've got your perfect pair of pants, great, fine. But what about all the other stuff that adds interest and sparkle and makes the world more flavorful and fun? Like that's what I want to make sure to foster. And so the only way that can happen is if you give people opportunities. And it doesn't have to just be the people who have, you know, VC funding and you know, have these big concepts, et cetera. It's like, what if some scrappy young entrepreneur, you know, comes up with an idea that changes the world, and they didn't get that opportunity because they didn't have access? That would be a shame. You know, I want to be in an interesting world. So this is an invitation for those of you out there in DC to please submit your designs if you want to be considered for In 7 Words. In order to submit, you can submit to mvarian@guest.co, which I'm going to spell out because I really do, you know, no matter what, we're going to have mentoring sessions. Even if you aren't selected to be a part of In 7 Words, we're going to have lots of programming to explain how you could improve your presentation, like how you could be more market ready, what kind of hurdles you have to get over. Like you know, even if you're not a good fit for In 7 Words, we still want your business to do well.
Exactly.
So mvarian@guest.co is MVARIAN @GUESST.co.
Yes.
So 2 S's and no M at the end.
Exactly. And join us, and then, I mean, let's dive into. I mean, if we're going to talk about smaller brick and mortars, if we're going to figure it out, and that's why we're doing this. The importance of like supporting these emerging brands and also maintaining the support so we can sustain them within the community and the growth of the economy. And I think that's literally part of our platform. If we are supporting smaller brands, we're also going to be supporting our community, and within that we want to support outside and inside the community. So when you come there, it's not just about the now 22 brands that we have. It's more about what can we do outside of the community to bring you guys in? We want to do workshops. We want to do photo shoots. We have a studio. So any of you photographers out there, if you have a camera and you want to harness your skill, if you want to work on building stuff, this is a place you can come to, because we are really mentoring in all forms when it comes to a small business.
Well, I think also bringing people together
Yeah.
is how great things happen. So, having a photo studio or doing a workshop at It's 7 Words creates opportunity, not just for, whoever's hosting a workshop or doing the photo,
Right.
shoot, but maybe somebody else is there that they connect to, that then fosters a new relationship where they do a project together. And so in New York, one of the things that I experienced was that so many brands really, they weren't able to get in front of into brick and mortar stores because there's so much stress in the industry right now, and
Exactly.
and people point to the internet as the primary reason that in New York City there are tons of retail spaces for lease. There's lots of empty retail spaces, and they're calling it high rent blight. But they're also saying that the reason that so many stores are having a hard time is because of the internet, which certainly the internet has absolutely impacted brick and mortar.
Right.
But this number, everybody is shocked when I say it, but the internet sales are still less than 10% of the gross retail sales in this country. So it's not that the internet is taking over all retail. It's actually not that at all. In fact, what sells well online are mostly commodities.
Right.
Like if you want to buy diapers and you're going to have to keep buying diapers every week and stuff, so you just press, order, add it to your shopping cart, have it shipped to you and delivered, because you don't want to go
Exactly.
and buy diapers. But you don't need to see those diapers in person to see whether or not they're going to work. It's like you bought the diapers before, you're going to buy the diapers again. Diapers work.
Right.
But, when it comes to finding beautiful things, validating the quality, whether or not it is what, you really thought it was in real life versus just a photograph online, that motivates a lot of people to go to the actual store and see it in real life. And then the beauty of that too is then they might discover something else and not have an experience that they weren't expecting.
Exactly. Well, I think you're right about that. I agree. I'm not as big as an internet shopper as some people might think I am, but I'm really not. I'm all about the customer experience. I think I'm an old school shopper. I like to see what I'm buying. I like to know where it's from. I like to at least know who I'm supporting when I am making a purchase, whether it's from a big or small or brick and mortar. I think myself personally, that's why I've been trying to shop small, because knowing where everything it comes from is a little more reassuring. Like if I'm going to spend $50 or more on products, I might as well know exactly who made it, where it came from, when it was manufactured, or like knowing who you're supporting, knowing what family you're supporting. It makes you feel good, but at the same time, it's just a better way of giving back to the community. Maybe you're not going to donate to things every time, but if you're supporting smaller businesses, you are still donating to your community. You're still helping your community grow in one way or another. So I think that is literally, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Feels really good.
Yeah. And I think when we talk about, there's a lot of talk about experiential retail and what that is. And, I don't think it's happening here as much as it is in New York,
Right.
but they're trying to figure things out so aggressively. And so it's like, put a slide in there, have a ball pit, it's like, well, but what's the long game in something like that? Is that, you're not valuing the intention of whatever it is you're trying to sell. Like,
Right.
I think there has to be real value in that thing before, it's not about making the sale. It's about falling in love with something and,
Right.
and actually valuing it and not looking at things as disposable. And I think that's one of the things that we can do, with In 7 Words, is that there's an authenticity regarding the intent of what it is instead of just being disposable and impulsive, etc.
Exactly.
Um,
I think that's where most people want to start shopping with, or when you shop, that's your intentions of shopping these days, is that there was an intention for the item. You're not just impulse shopping as much, or if you are, you're still impulse shopping for like coffee mugs that you want or plates or something like that, but you want to make sure that you're getting it, that it's not just the same thing you can get at like that anyone can get. Like, you want to get something that has an impact that's like special. People want to be able to tell a story with items. People want to get experience when they have an item. And I think that's the one thing that is going to keep the smaller business and keep smaller brick and mortars like going, is that there's stories. You know what I mean? It's going through a process that you may not have known before making that purchase. And that's...
Well, I think one of the values in the story is also understanding what goes into making something.
Exactly.
In, you know, the internet, like, we're going through a revolution right now, you know, and we already had a revolution at the turn of the last century.
Right.
Like, it was the Industrial Revolution, and there was this really huge pushback to, like, appreciate nature and history, and, you know, all of the nature museums and natural history museums
Exactly.
and things like that. That's like, you know, the arts and crafts movement came out of the was pushback from the Industrial Revolution. It's like machine made, you know, then people started wanting things that were handmade. And so right now we're going through the digital revolution, and so going back to the physical has real meaning. And actually, like, engaging in real life. There are people who, you know, are parking their phone for a day, you know, having a quiet Sunday, and I think we're going to see more of that. I don't think it's going to be that people ever relinquish their cell phones. I don't think that's a thing.
That's not practical.
But I think there's an awareness that there's value in being places in the real world, engaging with people in real life, and having FaceTime, and then having tangible physical things that people have spent time, you know, figuring out how to make it well, that there are good materials, and you know, that it's not just something for a selfie that you throw away.
Exactly. Yeah. I know. It's like when you go to events and everything like that, and sometimes you get all these goodie bags of stuff that I don't think you would have actually purchased, but was given to you. You know what I mean? And I think it's that mentality, I think, of shopping that I'm trying to get out of. I'm like, everything I put in my space, I think everything that people put in their spaces now, especially living in a city, you have to make a conscious decision, because you actually don't have enough space just for everything. Like,
well, you know, I'm coming from New York, so we're extremely space conscious, but I'm guessing here in DC you have that problem too.
yes, if you live in the city, and people will know, you live in a row house. Everything's long and tight. I could tell you some stories about trying to fit furniture into my apartment. It's very hard. It's got to be tiny and efficient to fit in my apartment.
Yeah. Well, if anybody needs an 8-foot stainless steel table in New York City, we have one, because it won't fit in our new kitchen.
Oh my gosh.
We just moved our store in from Soho to Brooklyn.
Oh my gosh.
And
yeah, okay.
It's like, oh, gee, 2 inches too short means it just doesn't fit.
Nope. Oh my gosh, you guys heard that. I'm just saying, let us know. Michelle's going to be here for a couple of days.
You can reach out and ask me. It's now, at this point, it's free.
Do you guys get free? If any free table, if you got room for it.
Sorry, but that's in Brooklyn.
Oh.
It's not here in DC.
Sorry, everyone in Brooklyn. Just in case you guys got excited. I saw some of those feeds going up. Someone's going to be like, free table? Friends right now. Someone's getting a moving van tonight, like going to Brooklyn. Actually, I wish I could get that table. Sounds good.
It's counter height. We were using it as an island in the kitchen.
Seriously?
It worked great.
Oh my gosh.
So we brought it with us because it was perfect.
And now we're stuck with that table.
I see some wheels turning and some people sitting around.
Oh my God, this is pretty exciting. It's like, I'm trying to think what else we're going to discuss while we're here. We got this time. Also,
But I think actually the fact that we're going to be doing some mentoring sessions and roundtables and, you know, going back to the experiential thing, I am a big believer in meaningful conversation, meaningful engagement. So in New York City, what we've had the most success with, and the hunger is just so palpably there, is knowledge. Like, people want to understand how to do things better, how to navigate their profession better, how to navigate the design world better, how to navigate to possibly, you know, reach more customers as a business so that they can scale and hopefully sustain themselves. And so having those kinds of conversations where we'll have roundtables, we'll do that here.
Exactly.
So that we can address certain things. talking about how, as a brand or a designer, taking good photographs, how important that is, really thinking about your price structure. I am incredibly transparent about, how one has to, structure their pricing if you're going to sell a product to make it sustainable for you. So many brands underprice their product, and it's not that we want everything to be expensive, but if you sell it for less than it needs to be in order for you to sustain yourself and have a business that is valid, you have to price things appropriately. And if that price doesn't work for the market, then you failed. You can't just reduce the price and say, okay, this is the price it has to be, and so that's my business model. Like, if that's less than it needs to be for you to pay the rent and pay yourself and eat, it doesn't work.
Oh my gosh. So give an example, I guess, of that, just to kind of explain, like for like a book or something like that, like what?
Well, actually, when I've had a store for 20 years in New York City, and in '08 during the recession, one of the things that happened was that, ramping up to '08, a lot of younger people, weren't able to get jobs in their profession right out of school.
Right.
And so a lot of people were scrappy and started their own businesses, and it was fantastic because it was also like Etsy was, in full, was this sort of newish platform that facilitated the possibility of starting your own business and reaching a broad market. And so a whole bunch of people started their own businesses, and when Etsy started their wholesale platform, I reached out to them and I was like, I need to talk to you because you have a large market, a direct conduit to a whole bunch of brands, and I need to educate them. Because as a retailer, brands were coming to me and saying, hey, I'd love to be in your store. I followed you for years, and now I have this product that I think would be great in your store. And I'd ask them how much it cost, and they'd say, it's $50. And I'd say, okay, that's great. I love the price. That's a great fit. And they said, so what's your wholesale price? And they'd say, oh, well, I can give you 10% off of that $50. And I was like, well, wholesale typically means at least a 50% margin. Exactly. So if you sell it for $50, I'm not going to pay more than $25 for it because I need to make money, and I have that big rent to pay, and I have employees to pay, and I have my PR and marketing that I'm paying for. There are all of these expenses associated with getting your product out there. And so, I would say, well, I can't wholesale your product because you have no wholesale margin. That's not wholesale. 10% off doesn't do it.
Right.
You have to give me at least 50%. And they had established their product at $50. And they, gotten a following at $50. And I'm like, well, now you really need to be selling it for $90, And they were like, oh, my customer won't pay $90. I've been selling it to them for $50. And at my first mentoring session with Etsy, there was a lot of pushback in that conversation. Once I told them what my rent was, there was much less pushback regarding the retailer needing to make 50%.
I was going to ask, how did it go after you had the conversation?
Well, after they picked their jaws up off the ground,
right,
and kind of recalibrated, then it was a much more productive conversation, and so some of them actually did increase their prices,
nice,
and found that they were working smarter and less. So they were making the same amount of money. It wasn't so much that they were making so much more money, but they were grossing the same amount of money, but netting a lot more. So they weren't turning as much product, but that was actually better for them. It meant less work for them, and then what they net on what they did sell was more. So for some of those designers it worked. And so one of the things that I try to explain to a lot of designers as well, and the reason this happened in the first place is that so many people never worked for another company before. Like when I had this mentoring session with the Etsy designers, and they flew people in from different parts of the country and stuff, and I was like, how many of you all have ever worked for a design company before? And only one person raised her hand out of nearly 20 companies, young entrepreneurs. And then I said, well, how many of you have worked for anybody before? and there was like 2 people. You know, because it was just at that
Right.
time, you know, they couldn't start, you know, find a job with somebody else, so they started their own thing. That was a lot of their motivation.
Right.
And Etsy made it possible for them to scrappily start their own business. So that's
Right.
awesome, right? But they didn't have the knowledge and understanding of what the price structure had to be sustainable. And so, you know, I'm just all about trying to get in there and share this information so that people don't make really critical mistakes before they even really start.
Yeah.
You know, like they establish themselves at this place that's not sustainable. So, you know, like getting in there and making sure to share this information and be transparent so that people aren't making critical mistakes in the very beginning and setup of their business is so important.
Right.
And I think we can do that here in DC too.
Yeah. And I think that's the one thing that a lot of people who start smaller businesses, you're so nervous and you want to get your product out there so bad and you want people to buy it and make it so affordable so bad that you,
Absolutely.
you forget the fact that you have to still put value on yourself. I think that people have to realize, and that I'm sure you're going to mentor them and help everyone else, that putting the value on yourself to know what you're worth so you can sustain a business will make you a sustainable business. Not having that fear of pushing what you think is pushing the market on the price, you'll be very surprised. I think a lot of people are surprised of how much people will spend for something if they really like it. Like, someone will buy your product at a certain price that you put it at because they know the value of that particular item. They like the story that you tell with the item, and that's where they're making the purchase. So I think sometimes that fear of not being accessible for everyone is the reason why people will just be like, it's this much, not realizing that you need to know your wholesale versus what you're actually going to charge it so that you can make money so you can keep making this product over and over again. And why some people, I think, sometimes just do custom or individuals is because they're not putting the value on that product earlier so they can keep making the item without having to wait to get payment for it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's
the
breakdown.
The good news is that I actually think that what is shifting and what is part of the kickback to the digital revolution is that appreciation of the physical world and what it takes and to make something, like
Right.
the amount of time and energy. And it's funny too, you know, after multiple generations of just being able to go to a store and, you know, buy a bag of flour, for instance, right? And it's like that, you don't really think about what amount of energy goes in to making flour. You know, it's like you got to grow the wheat, you got to grind it, you know, it's all of these steps and
Right.
processes before it gets there, et cetera. And now it's a commodity, right? And so there's a certain cap on how much you can charge for flour, right? But if you're doing something really special and it's clear all of the labor that goes into it and it's distinctive, then you should value it. And thankfully, people are becoming aware of not wanting to be such a disposable economy where things are just, you know, produced and thrown away, and filling up landfills and
Right.
etc.
I think now you're great. It's all about more sustainable stuff or something that you don't have to replace again, at least. Hopefully I'm getting there. I think everything now these days.
Wait, how much clothing do you have in your closet?
Okay. Now, fair enough. I just organized my closet and went through it 2 days ago. So I'm probably have a little bit more than I need, but I'm a woman of options, okay? I need options, you know. I have like a fancy black turtleneck and a casual black turtleneck. Yes, that's 2 black turtlenecks, but the fabrications are different. And one's silky smooth and the other one's like a really nice cotton. So, I mean, I live my life differently. I'm feeling a little judged right now, but it's okay. I'll own it. You know, it's kind of what I do. I need options. I need outfits. At least I organize my closet. It looks good. And I always like donate or I give my clothes to all my friends. They know that. They get very exciting when I organize my closet. They get new shoes, jeans, like the whole shabam. I'm very, you know, I find my ways to recycle. I swear. Oh, Lord.
But actually, I think it's really good. Like, growing up in Detroit, you know, and when I was a kid, and people are like, "Oh, you always look, you know, doing so," always kind of pushing the envelope regarding how you want to look. But like, some of us want to be that. Like, you want to push the envelope. You want to be able to say, like, "No, I don't want to be ordinary."
Yeah, trust me. I've been like that since I think day one. I mean, like, that's the funny thing. Fun fact, everyone, we are actually both from Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, yeah. And we didn't, like, that was a full-on coincidence.
Yes. I was not hired because I was from Detroit. That was not a requirement of the job. It just kind of, the stars aligned and it worked out that way, so that was pretty exciting. So, yeah, I stood out in Detroit a little bit.
No, wait. And Lauren, I was like, no, wait, where does your dad live in Detroit? And you were like, wait, he just moved. It's a street. I think it's called Jeff. Is it Jefferson? Or and I was like, Jefferson, and what? And you're like Van Dyke, Van Dyke, and I was like, okay, that's like 2 blocks from my parents' house.
Yeah, so our parents are neighbors, and now we work together, so it's very exciting. And my dad's probably going to be so pumped. He just got a shout out. I'm never living this moment down. I know. I hope you're excited, Dad. This one's for you. Oh my gosh, he's gonna be pumped. He's gonna be. We gotta frame this. We gotta record this forever. Can we put this on a VHS or something like that? Yeah, he still has one of those too.
Actually, the building your dad lives in.
Yes.
I babysat for a family in that building.
Shut up.
In I think it must have been the 1970s. Because it was one of my first babysitting jobs, and I think I was all of 11 years old or something. Which, back in the day, that's how old you were when you began babysitting.
Oh,
now nobody would leave a baby with somebody who was 11 years old now. But,
oh no. Mm-mm.
But back then, yes, they were like, "You want to come and I'll pay you $3 an hour, and you'll come and take care of my children." Okay.
Right.
And so, but anyway, the first time I saw a Beta, it was before VHS. There was the Betamax, something.
I think so.
The precursor to VHS and VHS 1.
Oh, stop. See.
Yeah. So anyway, that family had the Beta. So I watched my first filmed, videotape on television.
Yes. And for some of you guys who don't know what those devices are, we know what generation you guys are from. And it's okay. I'm not in that generation because I know what she's talking about. Okay? I know 8-tracks too, okay? Listen to one. A couple of them.
They looked a lot like 8-tracks, actually.
See, there. Now everyone knows what generation I'm. Just in case anyone's wondering, I can't even say it. I feel like I'm right on the cusp of being I can't even say it.
Millennial?
Yes. I might be one. I'm right there. But I had my first job at 14, so I mean, I've been working.
Actually, that's the Detroit way.
Yes.
Scrappy.
Yes. First job at 14, Sears hardware store. I organized nuts and bolts.
Wait, literally?
Yeah. I learned about hammers, nuts and bolts. I was like, that was my
So
aisle.
you learned the nuts and bolts of things?
I did. This sounds worse than it is, dear. I did. I had a really mean boss too. You know, speaking of working in big brick and mortars, yeah, she's redheaded, and I like gingers too, but she was just so mean. She was so mean to me. She yelled at me every single day about something, about how to organize stuff, and I used to just like cry, but I'm not a quitter, so I worked the whole summer.
You're really good at organizing things now, though.
Yes, I organized everything. She yelled at me, and I was so mad about it. I cried every single day. I didn't quit, and then this summer, I've never been so excited to have to go back to school. Like, I was so pumped to go back to school. I was the only kid that's like, education, because then I had to leave my job. So, that was my first job experience, and look what I did. I just kept working forever, so I guess it worked.
You know, Lauren, I haven't asked you, how long have you been in D.C.?
I've been in D.C. now for, oh my gosh, okay, D.C. proper since 08, 09. Yeah, I started off in Virginia. Yep, shout out to everyone in the VA. I've lived there. I make jokes about needing a passport when I go.
You know, I don't know what any of these references are. Like why Virginia is different from whatever. You know.
Okay, so like, so we got the whole DMV. So it's like.
And when you're saying DMV, you know what that is in New York. It's the Department of Motor Vehicles. So every time you said it, I was like, what does that have to do with anything?
Well, it's the same thing. It's just like the same initials work. So it's like D.C., Maryland, and Virginia.
I got it. It took me a minute, but then I was like, okay, I get
it. No, but I used to live in Virginia, then moved to D.C. My first job was in D.C., was at Barney's, New York, actually, and on M Street. So I used to work there.
Is
while
Barney's still here in DC, or is it one of the ones that did it close a while ago, or is it
closed
one of
a
the
while
ones that's
ago.
just closing?
Yeah, they closed it. Rest in peace. My first higher end retail job really helped me talk. I think that's why I fell in love with the whole customer experience and really making people like what they're purchasing. Because even there, in your 20s, sticker shock
Oh yeah.
every single day. I used to pick up
I
something
mean,
and be
I'm
like,
not in my
Jesus!
20s, and I get sticker shock used to get sticker shock when I went there.
Right. Oh my gosh. I just pick up something and be like, huh. And then I just really learned about having to have like product knowledge and having to know about where things come from and having to know where things are made in order to explain to the customer and let them know why they're spending so much money for like this particular item.
But let's talk about Barney's though, because Barney's is, like what's happening in design and retail. Barney's is a casualty of what is happening. But I think it's more than that. Like, so many people are responding to the stress in the retail and design community and making assumptions and reacting to it in ways that maybe aren't productive.
Right.
So, you talk about Barney's having been this great experience and needing to have lots of product knowledge to convey the value of what that was. But it was also a highly curated experience. They picked the best of the best. There was a point of view. You felt like this was the creme de la creme of design, and that you were cutting edge by going into Barney's.
It really
and
was.
and they lost the thread. And
That's what it was.
I think it's really important to really stay focused and true to what your mission is. It's like when you start chasing, we all have to make money. Like any business proposition has to make money, but you start minimizing things down to the lowest common denominator, and it just kind of becomes shit.
Right.
And it's like, no, you have to stay true. It's like Barney's was about a highly curated, eclectic experience, and knowing that you were going to see the most cutting edge, the most design forward. Like if you bought it at Barney's, you kind of couldn't go wrong as far as cool factor goes.
Yeah.
But also you were really well taken care of by the staff, and I think that was a big part of it. And the experience of being in the store, there were no ball pits, there were no slides, but everything was beautiful and really well thought out, and the materials of not just the product being sold, but the actual space itself had a grace, and being there felt good. And you start chasing like, oh, we've got to have less expensive product, or it's too expensive having the sales staff, so we'll cut back, and then you're not providing the service that you used to provide. And so it just, you start chipping away a little bit at what your core DNA was, and then you got nothing.
Right. And that's, honestly, I think that's what happens with a lot of brick and mortars these days. And I think the problem is that always trying to cut corners to make more money, or trying to cut the experience from the customer or the client because you think they're not going to recognize it, because you throw a sale in their face, or you throw like some type of entertainment in their face. But at the end of the day, the core of it is about, if you have happy employees, if you have happy staff that believes in your concept and believes in what they're selling, they love where they are, they're going to convey that to the client or customer, and the customer's going to have nothing more than want to make this purchase and want to be part of it. I know when I was working at Barney's, so one thing that I really like to do is like knowing someone's name literally can make or break a sale sometimes. And I think people forget just generally having a like for what you do and looking at people beyond a dollar sign. And I think that's the one thing that is...
I can't remember anybody's names, and it's a massive handicap in what I do. I was like, at years ago, I was... After Diane von Furstenberg, but I think like the second round, somebody asked me if I would like try out this new thing, Google Glass. Like they were still testing it out. And I was like, I am so not your girl. But I was like, wait, does it have like a database and it could tell me what somebody's name is? Because I'd be all about that.
Right. No,
It's like, Mission Impossible or something.
No, and the weird thing is I can be really bad at names and stuff like too, but what I used to do is just like, I will remember like our experience or something you told me or what you were wearing or something like that. And then from there I'd see something and be like, oh, didn't you have that top and you came with your dog and you guys going on that trip? And somebody be like,
See,
oh my
I can
goodness.
do that, but I don't know their names.
See, the name always comes like last, or like 2 minutes later I'll be like, Maria. So, but I think those type of things when it comes to brick and mortar, just talking about just chipping away, you change the experience for the customer. They'll stop shopping there because at the end of the day, like we talked about earlier, like people can shop online. So.
Hey, you know how you said that Gallaudet, because Union Market District, there are lots of, like people have done sign language classes.
Yes.
And stuff. We need to do that because then, like, you could sign to me what somebody's name was.
I could.
And they probably wouldn't know that's what you were doing.
That is true. I know. I really do want to learn sign language. Again, I used to know when I was in the Girl Scouts. I was kind of, don't want to toot my own horn, but I was killing it. And then, you know.
Girl Scouts?
Yeah, I went on signing Girl Scouts. Okay, back in the day, Girl Scouts used to be up. I feel like it was an amazing program. It was just not the cookies. I feel like now you just think of Girl Scouts, you just think of cookies. Before, we used to like camp and stuff. Like I actually camped. I like went to earned some bead swimming in the water, doing some polar bear run. It was like not enjoyable and like Michigan water and weather. So you know it was like cold.
That sounds cold.
It was cold. It was so cold in the D. Like they made a song about it. It's a fact. But no, I just realized that that's just how it's been. Like.
So yeah.
So we're going to the bigger brick and mortars, talking about more smaller brick and mortars and how the internet, like you were talking about before, it's not affecting, I think, people as much as they may think it's going to affect people. And I think that's why Michelle and I are here doing what we're doing, is because we'll have the platforms to.
There's a finite amount of stuff out there, and that, you know, if we don't keep making new and giving opportunity for that, like, you know, the internet had a lot of catching up to do to like record everything that exists in the real world. Now everything is on the internet.
Right.
Like it's all there, right?
Instant, yeah.
And it's kind of meant that a lot of people don't walk around as much as they used to because they get so much stimulation without even leaving their homes. But it's really gratifying when you do actually go out there. You forget how different the experience is.
I know, and I think that's how literally a lot of people have been finding us. I mean, they just walk into our store, and when you walk into the space, it's a new experience. And I think that's what I really like too, is like you're walking into this area and you're seeing that it's not just a normal brick and mortar. It's something a little bit more. So once people start talking to us and asking us the concept, as we were talking about before, it's something that I think that is going to be like the change of retail. I think what...
Knock on wood.
Yes, knock on wood. I do. I really think that, and I was saying this earlier, I think that bigger brick and mortars, like to anyone who works for them, I'm sorry, I want you to keep your job. But I think some bigger brick and mortars are dying, and I think this new age of, supporting smaller brands, but figuring out a way to have smaller brands supported in some type of a brick and mortar form is where we're going. We want to be able to support companies.
Well, actually, I mean, going back to the internet just generally, so many brands who start D2C, which means direct to consumer, we start talking lingo and stuff.
Right.
Not everybody knows what D2C means or stands for. And so direct to consumer means that a brand launched their business online and figured they wouldn't have to sell to other stores, so they wouldn't have a wholesale margin. And they could reduce their price because they'd be cutting out a middleman. And so what happens is now they have to spend so much to promote their brand online. Right. Because you're just like a needle in a haystack. How does anybody find you? And there was this assumption that just by being online everybody would find you, and it's like, well, actually you have even more competition as far as trying to capture eyeballs online than you do in on the street. So a lot of brands started online and didn't think they would have to support all of, like, you're not really cutting out the middleman, you're becoming the middleman. Like, you still have to do all of the things. Like, you have to pay for promotion and PR. You have
Right.
to figure out how to wait, for people to know that you exist.
Right.
And so we can be a platform for for people to discover brands and brands to get their name out there. And so, the beauty is you could come and pop into a platform, a retail store like in 7 Words, for 3 months, for 6 months, maybe a year even. And then, okay, you found enough new customers in that area, maybe you try another location. And that's what this model behind in 7 Words helps facilitate.
I guess it's kind of like if your end game if you are not going to become your own huge brick and mortar, because I guess that's one thing that I definitely want to get into, and I think the more that we talk about it each month, I want to get into, like, what is the end game? Like, even like for you, Michele. So you start off small. Now you have this concept. You have your concept in Brooklyn. We have this concept here. So your end game of, are you going to become a big brick and mortar? Are you still going to stay small but sustain small?
I don't have the answer to that, actually. I think that I love curating a store. I actually love almost everything about having a store. I love how many new people I engage and talk to, and if it hasn't become clear from us having this conversation, I like knowledge. I like understanding the why of things, and then figuring out and doing creative problem solving for, so that you make things better. So, people have asked me, so you're a designer, you mean you paint things and you draw things, you know how to make things, and you have your own business, and so you have a fabrication studio, and wait, but you're also helped develop this platform called Guest that's like a digital platform, so you're, internet.
She's a hustler.
Right.
She's a hustler. That's basically
and so,
the
somebody
answer.
asked me, I was like, what's the common thread? And I was like, creative problem solving. I like to figure out how to fix things.
That's good.
But like having a store, you talk to people and you listen. So, and then that's how I've come to have a lot of the knowledge that I have about, and anticipated a lot of what was coming before it was more broad, the awareness of it was more common. Exactly. Because I was paying attention, and I was starting to see this isn't working so well. This is changing. This is shifting. What's breaking? What should be fixed and sustained? What should change? And how can we make this better? And that's my jam. Like, and like listening in order to get that information so that I can come up with a solution.
So I guess my other question would be, like, what came first? Now I have to ask, because I feel like I should have asked this before. So what came first? Was it the business? Was it you doing your own things? Like, did you do pop shares before? Did you do?
I did.
Like market, like were you in markets, like at a table? Were you first doing artwork? Was it then to pillows? Was it then to lighting? Like what came first?
So I'm gonna back way up and like kind of zoom back in.
Perfect.
Right?
Okay.
So I think probably like lots and lots of people, I was like, so I guess some people, I can't quite relate to people who don't know what they want to do. For me, it was, which do I want to do?
All right. That's not a bad problem.
And so, it was like, go to art school, like, well, I don't want to be a painter because that seems so solitary, and like not being of the world. And I realized I liked the boundaries, like the working within the parameters of things you had to figure out. Like, okay, you have this much fabric and it's got to do this, and how do you make that happen, right? And so design was a really natural thing. So I went to school for design, and I studied fashion design. I worked in fashion for years. Mm-hmm. And I found that I was traveling all over the world, which was fantastic. And I loved that part of it, and I loved the design part of it. I actually miss designing clothing. I really do miss it, but I don't miss the industry, because people took it really, really seriously, and it was like every day was a major meltdown and a crisis, and the world was going to end because the color red wasn't quite right, and it's like, everybody chill out. But and I was working 12 to 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. And traveling, one time I flew to Hong Kong after working all day on Friday, And, it was a 21-hour flight. Awesome. And arrived, had to go directly to the office with 13 what we called coffins. They were like enormous suitcases on wheels.
You're right.
And I was by myself. And it was the first time I'd ever had an international flight, and it was to Hong Kong, and I had these 13 coffins by myself. And so I'm going through, the airport in Hong Kong, and there's like militia people with machine guns and stuff. I was like, why? It was just such a different experience. Right. But anyway, I had all these amazing experiences as a very young person. I feel very blessed. And it was, lucky, like a lot of luck. But I also found I was working crazy hours. And that in the companies that I was working for, all it took was one person to not do something on time, make a mistake, etc. And all of that work to make something beautiful, the execution in the end might not be what it should have been.
Exactly.
And I was working all of these hours, so I decided to start my own business. And instead of doing fashion design, I decided to do home goods because it's like I want to be self-financed, because the companies that I'd worked for had tons of friction between the finance people, like the investors, and the direction of the design company. And so I wanted to be independent. So I cashed in my 401k, which was only $20,000, which, the fact that I could start a business with $20,000
right.
would be very difficult today.
I was going to be like, can you?
And New York City was a very different city then. And that goes back to talking about opportunity. And so I was able to do what I wanted to do because it was such a different city. Right. I think it would be very difficult today. And I have to say, coming to DC, that's one of the things that I find really exciting. And also Union Market I find very exciting, and the neighborhood around Union Market is very, vibrant, and there's just so much energy, and it really feels like people have possibilities, and they're like scrappy, and they're hustlers, and I love it. And it's hard to be that in New York. There's the pressure, the overhead to be there, the amount of hours you have to work just to pay the rent is stifling. And anyway, so I started my own business, and I decided to do home goods because, like, for instance, I had all this textile knowledge from having worked in fashion, and I love textiles, and I could make a pillow cover. Right. And when you make a pillow cover and it's two squares stitched together, it always fits the pillow. So the cost of doing it was way less than if I was going to do a fashion line.
Right.
Because a fashion line, what people don't know is like a new fabric, and you really do have to have the newest fabrics, like whatever the latest, the greatest is.
Oh, yes.
In order to get enough fabric to make your samples, the factories making this for the first time, they have to weave a certain amount. So usually you have to buy at least 500 yards in order to even test the fabric to see if it actually looks good made into clothing.
Right.
So the overhead is really, really expensive. And then add to that, making clothing for the body is applied physics, which people don't really think about. Like, it's not just a two-dimensional thing. It's a three-dimensional thing that has to facilitate movement. So all of a sudden, it's like the structure necessary to do an armhole or a pant leg is actually really complex, and depending on which fabric it is, there's all kinds of changes that you have to make. It really is engineering, which I loved, by the way. I loved all of that. Yes. But it was wildly expensive and not something that I could finance myself. So I segued to do home goods, and that's why I ended up in home goods. Okay. And I was very fortunate, and I will say, be responsible and be a good professional person in your relationships, because so many of the companies that I worked with while I was working for big companies really did me a lot of solids. Like I said, the minimum often would be 500 yards for a new roll of fabric. They would, sort of like kind of be like, here's a couple yards that, like fell off the truck, wink, wink, wink. Right. If it works, we'll figure it out and we'll get you another 12 yards. Okay. You know what I mean? So, being a good business partner, you do get paid back. There is value in that, and I can't stress that enough. It has served me very well, Yeah. So anyway, I, started my own home goods collection, mostly home textiles in the beginning, doing decorative pillows, and I sold to Barney's, and I sold to Neiman Marcus my first couple of seasons. And I was feeling very flush with some of my first very large checks. And, like within a couple of years, getting checks that had 5 digits on it, before the decimal was like, woo, woohoo. I felt like a baller. And so then 9/11 happened. All the trade shows were canceled, and none of the buyers came to New York. So I decided that if none of the stores were coming to New York to buy my goods, I'll just open my own store. And that's how that happened. And it was to sell my own product in the beginning. And then, of course, as happens, your friends say, hey, can I have, or you see what your friend is doing and you like it. And you're like, I could sell that in my store.
Okay.
And it just grew and it grew and it grew. And in New York, I now sell at any given time about 100 different product designers in addition to the product that I design and sell, which now has expanded from just doing the home textiles, and selling it to other stores to selling it in my own store. But at one time I was selling to about 50 stores around the country. And that was before 2008, though. That changed. That was a game changer. And now I have a collection of lighting, I have a collection of wallpaper, and I do have a few furniture pieces as well. So, but that's because I had opportunity.
Wait, you said you have furniture pieces?
Uh-huh. Well, it's a little expensive to bring them down here. Don't get excited yet. Maybe one day they'll make their way to D.C. It'll happen.
I was getting paused. Like you said, you got a coffee table? Because, if it's not going to make it there, then there's a great apartment over in the Northeast area that I would love to put it in. I would. No, but I'm glad we got to go through your story. I'm actually, funny enough, we've only, been working with each other for about 9 weeks now. 9 going on 10.
Is it 9?
9, yeah. It's not a lot.
And we both like to talk, but we haven't really talked about our backstories.
I know. We haven't really dived into that, which is, I'm sure we'll be able to hopefully share again with you guys, all that. Yeah, but our partnership, we started November 21st of, sounds weird to say last year, even though it's not that long, but yeah. So November 21st, 2019 is when I started working at In 7 Words, and when we met, and then a couple days later the store opened, or a couple days before then we opened on the 21st. But yeah, it was very fast. So if anybody's ever wondering where I am or what I was doing for the last 9-10 weeks, this is what I've been doing. This is what I've been doing. So if you're ever wondering why I work so much, this is where I'll be.
We've been making magic.
We have been making some magic. It's been fun. This is probably one of the most favorite experiences of my life. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a hustler. I get to help other hustlers or brands, in a respectful way to say, but we're all hustlers trying to get to a platform. Yours is brick and mortar. Mine is supporting these brick and mortars. So it's been great. I've been excited. This is exciting. And this is only the beginning. So hopefully we'll dive in. We're going to have more discussions about the culture of smaller businesses, where it's going, some of the challenges, and hopefully we can interact with everyone more. And if you guys have questions, we're always going to be live, so we'll make sure to look through the feeds and respond to any of these questions you guys are asking as well. So
I want to actually do a call out for Lauren as well, because we're talking about the platform and how you love it, etc.
Yep.
And you're saying that you don't make anything, but one of the things that Lauren does bring to the table is you are a merchandising guru, and people don't understand how incredibly that is actually a skill and a talent. And unfortunately, if you don't got it, you can't get it. I've learned there's some things that you can't really teach. There's some things that somebody just has to have that, talent. And so Lauren does have that. And I will say that it does mean that the space is a very beautiful space. It's very lovely, and it feels good. And, well, actually, the windows and the sunlight that comes in them doesn't hurt. It is one of the prettiest spaces I've been in.
I'm telling you, in the morning, it's so good. I'll play the music by myself and just kind of dance. So if you walk by, if you're on 4th Street, you walk by, you're going to see me dancing in the morning between 11 and 12. That's when I'm really getting my 2-step on. But it's the best light.
And you're always very welcome to come in and say hi. And if you want to bring your laptop and hang out until you don't have any more battery power, that works with us.
That's right, because we can't charge you up, but we can support you. as you type out whatever you want to do, or you guys just want to hang out and talk with us. It's great. So this is really exciting. Not gonna lie, this is my first time ever doing a podcast, so thanks everyone.
Actually, and for any of you guys hanging out and listening, or on whichever platform you're on, please do let us know what you want to know more about, questions that you have that we could address in the future.
Yes, if you can find us on Instagram at In 7 Words. Let us know those questions, and I do check on Instagram. It's not one of those fake accounts. You will get a response. 9 times out of 10 it might be me. I will get back to you, I promise. Whatever day. I'm like, we're looking at a whole bunch of different cameras. This is so exciting. There's like one over there too.
Exactly.
All right, I guess until next time, thank you so much for speaking with myself. I'm Lauren Gay, and this is...
I'm Michele Varian.
And we're from In 7 Words over on 4th Street in Union Market. Stop on by at 1268 4th Street Northeast. All right, till next time.